Welcome to another success story episode here at Inspired Coach Podcast. We have the most brilliant, warm, amazing, and yes, very successful guest interview ahead for you. But there's something really exciting that I want to share with you before I introduce you to our wonderful guest today. It's entirely free, and we want to let you know about it here. It's a podcast within a podcast. It's Inspired Coach Podcast talking about another podcast from the Beautiful You Coaching Academy. This one is a private podcast, sneaky. It's called Your Next and Best Life Chapter, Inspirational Journeys of Life, Work, and Business Success. Now, this free private podcast, which you can access at beautifulyoucoachingacademy.com/private podcast, is all about showcasing people who followed their dreams into meaningful, heart-centered, and values-aligned work, and how they've created success on their terms, and you can too. This is a podcast that is particularly for those of you who are feeling very unfulfilled in your career and wondering what your options and next steps might be for you with that. Like you very much want more, a lot more, meaning and values alignment in your work, or you even feel very trapped in a job that you just know that you've outgrown. Well, this is the free private podcast to show you through genuine stories from real life people that you can create meaningful and inspirational work for yourself. It's 10 episodes. It's filled with inspiration and also practical steps that you can take as well. And so if that's you, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I really need that, you can again sign up to it at beautifulyoucoachingacademy.com private podcast. Entirely free, only available for a short period of time though. So jump on it, make it happen for yourself. We would love to gift this to you. So jump on in. Now to today's guest. Our beautiful success story guest today is Miana Melendez. Miana is a 2-time certified life coach, astrologer, and brand strategist who guides visionary leaders and soul-led entrepreneurs to align their inner evolution with bold, visible brand strategy, messaging, and copy. Through her embodied method, she bridges the gap between internal transformation and external expression, merging intuitive energetics with soul-aligned strategy, astrology, and human design. Miana's work is rooted in depth and liberating self-expression, so you can activate your embodied brand that doesn't just sell, but actually shifts paradigms and leads movements. You can find Miana at mianamelendez.com. This is such a joyful success story and interview. You are about to meet, if you do not know her already, this sparking, joyful, talented, amazing coach and brand strategist and astrologer and human design thought leader and so many other things. And so firstly, if you are somebody that has multiple intersecting interests and passions, and you're thinking to yourself, gosh, how can I bring all of those together? Well, Miana is a wonderful example of how you can do that very thing. And also, I'd love to encourage you, if you are very much a spiritual maven, to listen to how Miana weaves her spirituality and expression of her soul throughout her work, because it's really there, it's really prominent and important to her. She's incredibly successful as a coach and at what she does. You're going to love her. Enjoy this success story ahead. And don't forget that private podcast, beautifulyoucoachingacademy.com/private podcast. all there for the taking. We hope you love that too. Miana Melendez, welcome to Inspired Coach Podcast. It is such a joy to have you on as our guest and success story today.
Thank you so much, Julie, for having me. I'm elated to be here.
Well, I'm elated too, and I cannot wait for all of our beautiful listeners, shout out to all of you from around the world, to get to know you and your coaching journey and your success better. So, Miana, take us back to the time when you were first starting to think to yourself, I'd like to do more meaningful work, more me work, more soul work in the world. And I think the path for me of that might be coaching. Tell us what was happening in your life at that time.
Yes, thank you so much for bringing us back so then we can look at the present and future. So when I decided to enroll in Beautiful You Coaching Academy, I was already working with clients. I was really supporting people as a brand strategist and a copywriter. And I realized at that time that while some of the things that I was able to do, whether that was social media management or, helping someone redraft or rewrite, a sales page, while I was able to do that work, what I realized was happening was there were some limiting beliefs and some mindset work that was actually coming with the actual service that I was providing. I realized that it wasn't just as much as, I want to rewrite the sales page or, help me get from Facebook to Instagram. It was also helping them rediscover themselves and kind of looking at what maybe is my issue around being visible or being on camera, for example. Or I think there's something missing from the sales page and what's missing is me and my essence. And so that is kind of where I decided. I was like, I think if I had more of a framework and methodology and understanding of how to actually not just provide the service, but also coach my clients, that their full experience with working with me would be more holistic. And I think will be something that is beyond just the asset that we might have co-created together, but is actually supporting them in their lifestyle and their business as well.
I could not love this as a starting point, Miana, for this conversation more. And I want to let everyone know what's been running through my head as you have been saying that. And apart from the fact that you're amazing, and I can't wait to dive in further, I already knew that though before we started today, is the fact that people come into, and you are just a shining, beautiful example of this, the world of coaching and the skill set of coaching and the depth that that can provide people in their lives, but also for us as service providers from many, many different backgrounds. And that can include already having an established business. Now, most people who come to this don't have one of those already, but your story of already being in the entrepreneurial space is not necessarily that uncommon. And it's coaching that helps people go deeper with their clients. And so I'd love to talk about this a little bit more, Miana. Can you give us an example of where you have been able to go deeper with a client? Say, for example, you've been working with them as the wonderful brand strategist and copywriter that you are on their sales page or with their visibility, that coaching has helped you to help them at a deeper level.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I realized one client that I was working with at the time, she was more of a brick and mortar healer, creative energy artist, and I was supporting her and kind of expanding her presence and exposure online, and that was kind of getting her on social media platforms and kind of showing her how she can have still in person as well as a virtual business as well. And I think there was some mindset shifts around that and just some mental workarounds of her recognizing, and I think part of it too was even this idea of social media is for younger people, and so I can't be on social media, or what does it look like when it's my face that's on something versus being in front of a brand, or even that word of mouth that, when you're in a in-person community that people know you, and those referrals that might come up, whereas on a virtual platform, you're kind of starting off cold all over again, and it's kind of like that starting from zero energy. And so I think we had to get our energy around that in a more positive way of like, this is an exciting venture. It's not that you're losing anything, actually you're expanding something. And that I think created more excitement and feeling like this isn't something that I have to do. It's actually something that I want to do, and working around the energy of what does it feel like to be on camera, and is there any kind of rituals or things that I can do to help myself feel more comfortable even before I turn on the camera, whether that's setting up your space, lighting an incense, closing your eyes, tuning into yourself, and then pressing play. And of course, there's some other, you can have a script ready, you can chat it out with me or anything like that, those things as well. But it felt a little bit more holistic and also spiritual in that way as well.
It's the deeper work, isn't it?
Yes.
It's all one thing to say, yes, you've got to have a personal brand, you've got to have, all that sort of stuff. But of course we know that, but then it's a whole other thing to begin to execute things like that and suddenly either be or feel like you are, but probably be, if we're being really honest, significantly more visible in the world than possibly we ever have been. And that brings up issues of, sometimes confidence and self-belief and, all sorts of things. And so I can absolutely see how I know you must have a bag full of different stories like that where you've helped your clients. And so, Miana, how do you think that coaching helped your business? Like, you already were an amazing brand strategist and copywriter to begin with, but do you feel as though coaching has helped expand and increase the success of what you do?
Oh, absolutely. Hands down, 100% yes. I feel like coaching has allowed me to go deeper with my clients. I think I love the beauty of being a service provider and creating assets for my clients. And I love that coaching has allowed us to deepen that relationship and even create partnerships and long-term containers and, experiences. Whereas I feel like being just the brand strategist, it feels very one-off, or this is a one project, and that's totally fine. And, there's a time and a space for that if I'm creating this one sales page and after that it's done. But what I think coaching has allowed me to do is, again, serve my clients from a more in total experience of not just what are we crafting together, but also what are we doing on the inside, as well as how are you thinking about this differently? How can we create other assets together? Because it never just stops, as you know. Once you have a website, you still have to refresh it, and you have a new service. There's other assets and other pieces that come with it. But I think too, even involving coaching from the mindset piece, but also how that feels on the inside with them. Because as an entrepreneur or an at-home business owner, sometimes our devices are the things that we use for multiple things. Or, I'm in my home office, and sometimes it's my yoga studio, sometimes it's my coaching sessions, And so kind of allowing ourselves to not compartmentalize, but just allow ourselves to see like, okay, what are the rituals or what are the practices that I do to turn on and have that coaching hat or, that service provider hat? And then what are the things that I do to kind of, decompress from my day or take pauses or take breaks? That way it doesn't feel mundane, and it doesn't feel like I'm doing all these different things in one room and I never leave my desk for 8 hours, and kind of create a lifestyle for my clients. And I feel like that is those pieces that coaching has allowed me to support them in a way that is far beyond just the project, but is actually, I hope, something that they can use for a lifetime.
Beautiful, beautiful. It's that rich, deep, feeling-based, emotive-based work that we hold so close to our hearts here at Beautiful You, and you're such a shining example of that. Miana, you've mentioned a number of times in this interview already words like rituals, practices, and you mentioned as well a little earlier too, bringing in, the spiritual side of things. And so I'd love to talk about that a little bit more, because while I'm sure that for some people they're like, well, yes, of course, that sounds so apt, so lovely, so right, there'd be other people that potentially not so long ago would be going, now hang on a second here. Like, what do those things have to do with brand strategy and copywriting? And like, unless you were writing it for like a spiritual coach or a priestess or something like that, there was a direct line there in some way. But I have this feeling that it's more than that. And so my curiosity is piqued now to learn more from you about this, because of how often you've already mentioned it, which tells me it's really important to you.
Thank you so much for asking and reflecting that back to me. Yeah, I think, and this is something that I think, but I think it's becoming more open, and this thing is energy is everything. And what I've realized is this energy of, if we're already self-defeated while we're crafting something, whether that's something in Canva, a graphic, or in Google Docs, that sales page that you're writing, if we're already feeling anxious about it, or we're already doubting the value or the rate or the price of it, that energy is in what we're doing. And so then when we put it out there and we hear crickets or we don't get any feedback, then it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, where we're like feeding ourselves the loop, because the universe doesn't know whether or not this is a light or shadow thought. It just wants to conspire in your favor regardless. And so for me, I think that's so important to recognize the work that we're doing, even if it's not the client facing work, but the pre-work, all of the work that we do, the marketing, the visibility, the mindset, all of those things are in alignment with us to have success. So we have to already be there before we get the client. Otherwise, we're pushing that energy further and further away. And then we're telling ourselves this negative self-talk, even though we don't realize it, or again, it's subconscious sometimes as well. And so that's why I like to also pair in that spiritual piece, because there's usually some kind of inner child or earlier experience in life that has shaped who we are even as adults, which is usually what happens, is like we become an entrepreneur, and then because we have skills, because we have talents, we have expertise in so many different things, but then there's a little part of us, and it is the little person, the inner child of us, that sometimes creeps in. It's like, oh, that's not good enough, or who are you to charge that much? And that is where I feel like the real work truly begins.
Well, I would be in complete agreement with you there. However, this is not necessarily when we start to move or expand in a direction in our business where we're talking about things and concepts like energy and spirituality and many other things connected and related to that. It can then also bring up stuff for us around, right? Okay, I see the instant recognition there for you around, are people going to think that this is really loose or silly or really wild or weird, or am I going to turn people away here? Is this going to be off-putting? And those kinds of thoughts can then begin to come to us. Did you have any of that start to come for you when you started to speak about your work and your belief in addressing these things more? Or was it just like, nope, I'm cool, I'm just going to get it all out there?
No, absolutely. When I had first started my business before Beautiful You, that is what I actually called my business. I called it spiritual branding, and this was years ago, and because I felt like that is where, for me, that's kind of the juxtaposition that I like to live within. Is there's some spirituality and there's definitely some personal branding and business strategy. But I like to live in those two worlds, or blend them together, because I feel like as much as we are our business, I do know that there's a separation of that too. Like, if whatever's happening with my business, when it's good, it's great, but when it's not, that's not necessarily a reflection of you. And at the same time, I feel like after completing Beautiful You, I decided to go with just my name, because years had passed and I felt like I didn't necessarily have to use the word spiritual, because I think it was becoming mainstream. But I definitely had some, my own personal, not disbeliefs, but limiting beliefs around, are people going to get this? Does this make sense? Is this too niche? Is this something that people would pay a coach for? Or let alone a brand strategist or copywriter? Or, I just want you to write my copy. Like, I don't need, anything else from you kind of energy. So I definitely went through that. And now that I'm weaving in more astrology, I definitely have gone through that same thing of like, is this too much? Or where is that, am I blending too many things? But I think that's the alchemy of coaching.
Look, absolutely. And it's also the alchemy and magic of running our businesses in the way that we want.
Yeah.
Right. It's all about you expressing you, because clearly, Miana, with the beautifully successful and thriving business that you're running, doing these things and expanding into these things, and or just talking about them more, it's not harmed you in any way, has it?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yeah, it's obviously been something that you've authentically embraced for you, and then others have begun to do the same.
Yes.
Miana, something that I also happen to know about you and your business is that you are passionate about working with women of colour.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your passion for that and what it means to you?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yes, I mean, I'm a woman of color. I grew up in Chicago, the Midwest of the United States, and then I moved to Mexico, where I still am since, it's been 8 years now, I think since 2017. And so I feel like it's so important I think it's twofold. One is I want to create a safe space for other women of color to feel comfortable. I think there are beautiful cultural differences and societal conditioning and all of those things. And so I just want other women of color to feel seen and recognized, and that self-reflection of like, oh, she's a woman of color, I can do that too, because there's a model, there's an example in front of me, and I know how heartfelt that can be, especially in any like school system, when none of your professors look like you, or the celebrities that you emulate again don't look like you, and you're like, well, where's my representation? Or is there someone that's like me that's doing the thing that I want to do? Because even if it's just that 1%, it gives me that 1% sense of self-confidence and self-assurance that I can do it too, because she also has. And at the same time, I also have to say, because of the world that we've lived within, and I think so much has changed in such a little amount of time, that I've also opened my lens of that as well. Because at first I was thinking, oh, I only want to serve women of color, and there's, I think, a beautiful time and place and space for that. And again, I think for me, I love when I have women of color clients, and at the same time, I've had to open that up, because I've also evolved, and I've recognized, if someone wants to work with me and they have all of these qualities that I really enjoy of working with someone who's passionate, who is coachable, wanting to learn more, is willing to look at their shadows and alchemize that, willing to look within and discover more about themselves, and how those wounds can turn into wisdom, or how those previous challenges are actually strengths. I feel like if that's you, then I really don't care if you're a man or a woman, they, them. For me, it doesn't matter anymore, because I think so much of our world deserves more love and not borders or boundaries. And so, I feel like that's my well-rounded answer to that as well.
thank you so much for sharing that with us, Miana, and I'm really glad that I asked it of you, because you are right. Often we cannot be what we cannot see. It's not necessarily always the case, but gosh, representation, as they say, it matters. It really does matter. Sometimes I think there are certain phrases and terms that are a bit throwaway in life, and it's like, oh, really? I don't know. But that's one that representation matters, is one that I just feel is a fully embodied truth. And so that's just beautiful. And thank you very much for sharing that with us. Miana, I know that this is a really big question, but I'm keen to ask it of you. What do you attribute to your business success?
Ooh, that is a big question, Julie. What do I attribute to my business success? Whew. Okay, I feel like we could be here forever, but I think something that attributes to my business success is, I guess, part of it is the self-belief and the self-actualization. For whatever reason, I was so excited when I did sign up for Beautiful You at the time when you had like all of these bonuses, and it was kind of based on the signups of when you signed up, you got certain bonuses. And I remember chatting with the team at the time, and they're like, "You're one of our first signups, like 1 in 5." So I remember I got all of the bonuses, and I was just so excited for that. Like, I just knew that everything that I was doing was like moving in the right direction. So I think part of it is this question of saying yes even when you're not ready, or I think part of it is using the fear as fuel, which is something that I'm still working on, and I know with every next step I will continue to work on that. That's a lifelong journey, especially because I'm also a singer here in town. So every time I get on stage, I'm like,
you are? Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So there's some confidence there of like, okay, if I get on stage, like I'm just going to give it my all. And so I think there's something to that of saying yes before you're ready, or even this energy of getting ready. So when the opportunities and invitations come, you already are ready, because by the time they call you, and if you're not ready, well, then the opportunity has passed you by. So I think there's something about the self-belief and the self-actualization energy. I never really thought of myself as an entrepreneur. I feel like my pre-life before becoming an entrepreneur, I never really thought that. I always thought I was a good employee. I thought I was going to be in media production, working somewhere in a production house, or for, a nationally syndicated television show, which I did do. But now in this other iteration, I think even with every investment that I make, into myself, I'm like, what if this is going to be the thing that unlocks something? And I think we have to kind of have that audaciousness and that sense of resilience and tenacity that is that like this crazy little idea, it might be so crazy enough that it might just work. And I think I've kind of betted on myself with that enough times, and I know that will continue, that I think that is part of like, then you start believing it, right? And it's not from this sense of imposter syndrome. I do believe there's some of that, and I know that there's a time and a place for imposter syndrome. But even the word alone is like, I don't want to feel like I'm performing or, again, pleasing. I want to do that for I'm performing for myself. I'm getting on stage for myself, not because anybody else. So it does come from a heart-centered place. But yeah, I think there is this unwavering like sense of yes, why not? Or yes, why not you? Like, why not now energy? And I think that sounds a little crazy and maybe even egotistical, but I think anyone who has signed up with the Beautiful You Coaching Academy expecting, hoping and wishing that they, serve their clients and create this beautiful business, I think there is some of that energy too of like, this is my next leapfrog step, and I hope the reward on the other side is going to be greater than the risk. And I think so much of that is taking those daily action steps, those little baby steps every single day.
I know that was a really big question, and that was a beautiful answer that wove in your thoughts and experiences of what to me you were saying there was around self-belief, but also courage
Yes.
And then right at the end, bringing in taking action. So I just
Yeah.
feel like there's three magnificent things there that if I was being honest, as somebody that has now looked at and worked with many beautifully successful business owners from all over the world, that would be in the pie. That would be in the cake recipe for all of them. Self-belief, courage, action.
Yes.
Everybody has their own recipe. Everybody has their own way forward, of course. But I love the mention of those things. And I can see that self-belief and mindset is obviously something that you take really seriously for yourself and also help your clients with, which is absolutely beautiful. Miana, tell us what's next for you in your success story. Like, where are you hoping to take your business from here?
Ooh, thank you. I have been thinking up and I think concocting this idea of having any kind of group program. I think there is something beautiful about the brand strategy, and we can even create some kind of a system, right? Of like, in order to have a personal brand, these are kind of the things that you might need. And I think some of that is like, there's the masculine and there's the feminine, right? Is some of that is like, you probably need a website, you probably need a business card, you probably need a bio, and all of those things that are very external expression. And then there's the internal work. And for me, when I think of that internal work, I like to weave in the intuition, the spirituality, the energy, the astrology, because more and more, and human design as well, because more and more we realize we're not meant to be cookie cutters. We're not meant to do things the homogenous way that everybody else. And I'm so grateful that I believe that the coaching industry is getting away from that one size fits all energy. And honestly, my favorite place to be is one-on-one coaching. However, I do feel like there is this beautiful impact and depth that you can still do in a group setting. And so I've been thinking of how can I weave together the system of astrology with personal branding in a way that still feels very customized and personal, but also feels very like, yes, this is me energy, and not like, okay, great, but like, how can I make this for me? And for me, I answer that with, okay, let's look at your astrology. What are your big three, or let's look at your human design. What's your energy type? What's your profile type? And especially now with, I think the social media platforms are only going to continue to expand. I think we have Facebook and Instagram, but Substack is coming up. YouTube has been there forever. There's LinkedIn as well. So there's so many different ways to find success and for success to find you. So I think that's something that I'm curious and excited about to possibly create for 2026, some kind of pilot program to start. And also, I'm really excited for the opportunity to meet you in person, Julie, for the Inspiration Day.
Oh, wow. Oh, my gosh. That is so exciting. Oh,
Yes.
wow. What a joy. You're sort of, oh, beautiful. Oh, you're going to make me cry now. It's like, oh, my gosh, this is so, so exciting. Oh, Miana. As for everyone to have some context here, Miana, I was going to mention this at the end, is at the time of this recording, currently one of our Emerging Coach of the Year finalists. And that is always our hottest category. It's very, very hard to become a finalist, let alone a potential winner in that category. And so we are just so proud of you and so thrilled for everything that you have been achieving, obviously before you found us, but then even more so afterwards. You're a shining, beautiful example of somebody that just puts so much heart and soul into their business. And we just thank you so much for coming on and sharing more of that journey with us today.
Thank you so much.
Everyone, you can find the wonderful Miana at mianamelendez.com. And you heard it here first about that pilot program. You know where to find her.
Thank you so much, everyone.